All right, this is a complicated and emotional case. Here to help us understand the legal developments is New York criminal defense attorney David Schwartz, who you just saw in that piece a second ago by Alec Baldwin, and filmmaker Laura Pellegrini to give us a little perspective. Thank you both for taking a few minutes to join us here.
Thank you.
David, I'm going to start with you here. Explain the charges and why 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, so you have 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter, which is really based on this negligence standard. Did Alec Baldwin act as a reasonable person and would act in that situation? So you have the one based on a negligence standard, and then there's an enhancement where it's more of a reckless standard, but it's because he's handling a gun. So it's engaging in a lawful act. So he was engaging in a lawful act, but he was acting with this sort of extreme negligence. And because he was handling a gun in that act, that's where the enhancement comes. So the jury will be given either the regular involuntary, both the involuntary manslaughter and the enhancement, and they'll have to choose between the two. The regular involuntary has 1.5 years max. The enhancement is 5 years.
Now, David, also, the New Mexico chief medical investigator linked the manner of death as a, quote, accident. Now, what will the prosecutor have to do to prove in order for there to be a conviction here?
Well, it is an accident. And that's where you have this fine line between, is this a civil case or does it sneak into the criminal arena? So it's an accident. I don't think anyone is accusing Alec Baldwin of intentionally firing the weapon and killing this person. So bottom line is, even though it's an accident, if the accident happened where Alec Baldwin was acting with extreme negligence in the entire situation, not just the firing of the weapon, but the entire scene, it sounds like it was a scene where there were multitude of negligent acts. And so if they can find that, then Alec Baldwin can be guilty.
And David, there was a settlement that was already paid, correct?
Right. So unusual, the civil case was settled before the criminal case.
Yeah.
Well, no one knew there would be a criminal case.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's why that came as such a surprise yesterday when these charges were handed down. Laura, let me bring you in now. What's the reaction been from the film community following yesterday's announcement?
Certainly a mixed reaction, Chris. You know, I know the Santa Fe DA office has done a really thorough investigation independently to try to get to the bottom of this. This has been going on for 16 months. It's a blurry line. You know, Baldwin, he was a co-producer and he was an actor in the project. He didn't necessarily oversee all aspects of production. So he toes that very fine line. You know, I think at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, did he violate protocol? And on any set that Stefano DeFrey, my co-director, and I have worked on, there's a very clear line of command. You have a prop master who hands the gun to an armorer, a licensed professional, and they in turn have to check the firearm to make sure that it's a cold gun. Then it gets handed to the assistant director, and they're tasked with the responsibility of declaring a cold gun to the actor before they use it. So in that circumstance, you know, Alec Baldwin, his responsibility was to trust the line of command that took place on that day.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. So that's your protocol, and the prosecutors allege that there was a lack of safety standards on set. In your expertise, from what you've seen and heard, what really stood out to you? Where was the real miscarriage here in justice of the proper gun and the proper, weapon being provided to the proper actor at the proper time?
That's a great question. You know, I think it really boils down to the armorer. I'm not entirely sure that vetting process was as thorough as it could have been. And that might have been for many reasons, Chris. You know, from what I understand, it was a low budget SAG indie film. Yeah. And under that contract, some things get lost in the mix. You know, they tend to slip from the wayside. So there might not have been protocol during pre-production when they were doing, safety training during rehearsals. Also, you're not supposed to have a gun during rehearsal. And secondly, you're supposed to respect a 20-foot rule, which, judging by the video footage of that day, I don't necessarily think it was respected. Okay, now
let me ask you both of this question here. Now, excuse my ignorance on this, but this is a movie set. Why is there live rounds of ammunition on a movie set?
Well, the bottom line is, it makes no sense. And that's why the investigation, where is the investigation at this point? The million-dollar question here is, how did a live round get into that gun in the first place? And how do we not know who put that live round into that weapon, because that is the real guilty party. And if anyone knowingly, intentionally put a live round in that weapon, well, that could be a murder case.
And that's what I just understand. I mean, as an actor, you're on a film set. Why would you even think that there would be a live round in there? And I guess, you know, that kind of goes to exactly what you just said. Why is live ammunition there? Who put the live ammunition in that gun? That's what they really need to get to the bottom of. David, let me also ask you this. There's a third person who the district attorney names, Assistant Director David Halls. Now, he's taken a plea deal for negligent use of a deadly weapon. How could that impact the charges being brought against Baldwin?
Well, I'm sure he's going to testify, you know, for that guilty plea. He may be testifying as a witness for the state as well. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. He seems to be the most culpable.
Yeah.
So now you have Alec Baldwin. I think both of you made out a case that, you know, maybe Alec Baldwin's not that culpable here, especially the analysis that was just given. So it seems like this person is much more culpable than Alec Baldwin or his co-defendant.
And Laura, it's been over a year since this tragic event. How have safety protocols now changed on sets? Is it now one of those things where there's just so many different layers before a weapon, whether it's live or not that it should ever be live, is placed in an actor's hands?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, just to harken back to your point, under no circumstance should there be live rounds on set.
Yeah.
I just wrapped a crime drama with Stefano DeFrey. It was co-produced by the Russo brothers. We made sure that we were working with a licensed armorer and that there were absolutely under no circumstances live rounds on set. I think, you know, it took a senseless tragedy to discover that there are alternative options for firearms being put in films. It's something that you can settle in post-production. You can use CGI gunfire, you know? So it has led to other outcomes in that sense.
And David, I'm going to give you the last 15 seconds here. What are the next steps for those involved in this?
The next steps are that there'll be an arraignment, and we're going to go through the discovery process, and there could be pleas. And if there's no plea in this case, then we're going to see a blockbuster trial.
Unbelievable. All right, David Schwartz, Lauren Pellegrini, thank you both for being here. Greatly appreciate it. Good to see the two of you.
Thank you.
All right, stay with CBS 2 for the very latest on the charges. We'll have more details as they come in and on our website, cbsnewyork.com. And stay with us. We'll be right back.